In the way of basic tune-up, a lot of people can be intimidated by these newer cars, the digital network cars. These P2 chassis, like the one we're looking at here, were made primarily between 2001 and 2007 by Volvo. And they think or feel that what's under the hood is higher tech, and therefore it is tougher for your average home shade tree to take care of maintenance work by themselves. But actually, a lot of this is easier than it was on the older cars. And on some things, nothing could be further than the truth. It's just so simple that it's kind of silly to pay somebody to do it. So let's go over some of the systems that you would go through on a basic tune-up on one of these cars, and then you can decide for yourself if this is within your grasp or not. Most of the things under the hood are fairly easy to access. One of the things that's intimidating for some people is that there are covers over almost everything now. And the covers are really just designed to cover up wires and loose things that they normally would have left out under the hood like this. And if you simply know where the things are, it really doesn't matter. Some of the covers, this one doesn't matter. This has your engine computer in it and possibly your transmission computer depending on the year. Here is power steering fluid. It's very, very simple. There's actually a low and high mark right on the stick. Antifreeze goes in here. There's low and high marks right on there. The serpentine belt, which runs all the power accessories on the engine, is a two-sided serpentine belt on this model. I think most of these cars use a two-sided belt, and because it's a two-sided belt, it's pretty easy to look at it and just tell the condition of the belt. If it has cracks in it, or if the fingers on the belt are getting worn thin, then you should probably replace the belt. If it doesn't have cracks and the fingers are still nice and thick, then it's fine. It's doing its job. The timing belt and spark plugs and coils are under these covers. We'll pull those off in just a minute so you can have a look at those. The air filter is in this box over here. It takes no tools to change. Actually, the latches are bare finger latches, and you don't even need tools to do that. And fuses go in here. You probably won't need to get to your fuses unless something stops working. Let's take these covers off so you can have a look at this. These are Torx bolts. Torx are unfortunately a part of life now for owners with newer cars. You should just go out and buy yourself a Torx set if you're going to have these cars. There are 8 bolts that hold these panels on and 2 little clips which you can just undo with your fingers. And that gets you to all these items that you need to maintain. The PCV system on these cars is a known weak point on the cars. That's positive crankcase ventilation system. It's simply the system that takes the vapors from inside the engine, runs them back through the intake manifold so that they get burned instead of just leaking out as you go down the road. Positive crankcase ventilation means that your crankcase is supposed to be at vacuum all the time. If the PCV system becomes plugged up, instead of vacuum, your engine will have pressure inside it. And pressure will cause it to leak oil all over the place. So if you have a bunch of oil coming out around the oil fill cap, if you see oil leaking out around the sensors on the ends or behind the cam gears here, then you probably have a PCV issue. You should deal with that. It's a fairly big job. It's down under the manifold. But that's the right way to cure the oil leak issues on these cars. Beyond that, what we see here is this is the timing belt. I'm warning you right now, a lot of people will say, oh, you need to make sure you change the timing belt. But the timing belt is almost never the issue on these cars. Yes, the timing belt needs to be changed. The timing belt's a fairly inexpensive part. While you're changing the timing belt, you should also change the idler and the tensioner, which are roller bearing rollers that the belt runs on. And if those are not changed with the belt, they're going to break and make your belt break, and it doesn't matter how old your belt is. Just look at the timing belt. This one looks like it's in pretty good nick. There's nothing really wrong with it. Cameron keeps his car in pretty good shape. These are the individual ignition coils on this car. What that means is that this car does not have a distributor or a rotor or spark plug wires. While that looks complex, that means that now that you're doing a tune-up, you don't have to buy a cap and rotor and wires. It's just spark plugs. Each coil is simply held in with one bolt. If you pull out that one bolt and pull the coil out of the way, the spark plug's underneath it. It just looks like a spark plug, just like an old-fashioned car. There's nothing special about this. You do need a fairly long extension to reach the spark plug. These cars, if driven aggressively, go through a lot of spark plugs, and you probably want to change them almost twice as often as the factory recommends if you drive your car aggressively. At that point, There's really nothing else to do for maintenance on these cars under the hood. There's also a fuel filter, which is back under the car between the rear wheels, and there's a interior cabin filter that filters the intake air for the passengers, which is under the dash. Those are a separate subject which we'll go over in other videos. One of the most common issues on these cars are misfire codes. The onboard diagnostic system in this car is pretty good at individually telling you which cylinder is misfiring. What it can't tell you is whether you have a problem with a coil or a spark plug. Usually the best course of action is to go in and put in fresh spark plugs and see if the misfire code returns. If it does and you suspect you have a failed coil, all 5 coils are the same. You can simply swap the coil to another cylinder and see if your misfire code moves to the other cylinder. If it does, then you've isolated that coil and you can replace that one coil instead of having to go and buy all 5. If you have any more questions or there's something we didn't cover that you'd like to know more about, feel free to give us a call at 800-444-6473 or contact us on the web at www.ipdusa.com.